I had a conversation today with a narcissist. Actually, that's not quite true. Today, a narcissist talked at me, not with me. Every attempt I made to be heard was met with him either interrupting me, talking over me, arguing with me, interjecting his opinion, and I found myself feeling more and more frustrated, small, insignificant, and wondering what in the world was going on. I thought I was going to be able to have a conversation with this individual. I wrongly thought that there would be an equal exchange of information, a chance where I listened to him, he listened to me, and there would just be this free flow of information, and we might tackle a problem, solve it, arrive at something that was mutually agreed upon, and that didn't happen at all.
So I thought I'd tell you about a typical conversation with a narcissistic person. It's a conversation, but it's very one-sided, as you can imagine, and it's not really a dialogue, it's more of a monologue. So when you do start talking, that person, so in my case, my mother, she has absolutely no regard for you speaking. She just interrupts. Not only does she interrupt, she literally talks over you. Now it becomes this peculiar battle, really. You're pissed off that she's interrupted, and you have a lot to say. You're in the middle of a conversation, and so you are reluctant to stop talking. So you keep on talking because you're fed up of her interrupting, and then she interrupts and then just talks over you. So you both talk at the same time, essentially. You can't hear what you're saying yourself, and you can't hear what they're saying. And then the whole thing becomes quite unproductive, really. So this happens a lot, or used to happen. It's about control, really. She would talk over me to control me, to exert her power over me and her authority. It's a signal that she does not care about what I feel and about what I'm saying. All she cares about is herself and what she's saying. She's self-centered and selfish. It's about superiority of the narcissist and subordination of the narcissist's victim.
Hey, so today I want to talk about something that narcissists do, which is when you start telling a narcissist a story about your life or an event that you just experienced, they're not listening. But if they do pick up on a keyword or something that does interest them, they will interrupt and start telling you about their story and their experience. They do this every time you communicate with them. They are incapable of actually listening, much less caring about what the other person has to say. The only reason they will pay attention to what's coming out of your mouth is if it has something to do with them. That is the only time they will turn up their volume to pay attention. The minute you are talking about something that has absolutely nothing to do with their life, they mute. They put mute on. It's a dead giveaway. Think about it. Think about who you have conversations with that always interrupt and then turn the conversation right back around to them. And then they expect you to sit back and listen to their 20-minute monologue with a big smile on your face. And unfortunately, a lot of targets, they do it because they are being polite. And let me tell you, don't do it. Don't put up with their bullshit anymore. The next time someone interrupts you, you call them out on it and you say, hey, this is not a two-way conversation. In fact, this is not a conversation. If you need me to school you on what a conversation is and what mutuality is and mutual respect, hey, I'm happy to school you. Try this out. As always, stay strong. Get toxic people out of your life. See you later. Bye-bye.
Hey everybody, thanks for tuning in. In this video, I want to address the narcissistic control technique of talking too much. Of all the techniques, of all the symptoms of this disease, this personality disorder that I've experienced, this has been the one that I seem to have come across the most. It's the first thing I notice, and it's the first clue for me that somebody just might be a narcissist. These people talk endlessly, incessantly. They have a very high number of words per minute. What's interesting about them is that they do not need or rely on the cues that normal people need in conversation. For example, in a normal, healthy conversation, most people are kind of going back and forth. One party says something and the other person will do little agreement sounds or gestures like, yeah, oh yeah, I remember that. They'll give little confirmations that I'm listening, I hear you, I'm paying attention to the conversation. Most people, when they're talking, if they don't hear those confirmations coming back, they'll go, hello, are you still there? Because it's natural to make sure that, two people are engaged in the tennis match of the conversation. What's interesting about narcissists is they don't need you to hit the ball back, because one of the very big things with them is that they just need an audience. They don't care whether or not you're enjoying the conversation, whether or not you have something to say, something to contribute to the conversation. All that matters to them is that they have someone to listen to them. Someone to listen to them boast, brag, talk about their life, their accomplishments, their trials and tribulations. They just want an audience. So they can go on and on and on for minutes, and I've actually seen it go on for hours at a time. And here's a good test. Put your phone down and walk away. And if you come back to the phone and they're still talking, you're dealing with a narcissist. At minimum, an extremely self-centered person who really doesn't care about your input, because it's not about you at all. It's not about your relationship. It's about them having an outlet and someone to vent to and talk to. On a very similar thread, and very related to this behavior, the narcissist will often repeat themselves in conversation. So they'll tell you the same story over and over and over again at different times of the year, different instances, different things will trigger the same story. And it's amazing, really, because it makes you wonder how they can't remember that they've told you this already. But again, if you think on the characteristics and traits of a narcissist, it's not unnatural that they wouldn't remember, because again, they're not recording life in real time. They're not recording relational dynamics. They don't remember a lot of things, including what they've told you, what you've told them especially, but it's about theater. It's about a show. It's about putting on this act and this front and having someone just there to soak it up and listen to. And it's really quite incredible that a person could be this way and think that it's okay. And God forbid you call them out on it, because then they will usually flip out, shut down, and their next step is usually to either completely ignore you and give you the cold shoulder, or to become very short with you. So they're usually extremists, all or nothing. Either you're going to let me talk your ear off and let me do it my way, or we won't have conversation at all, we won't have relationship at all, I'll cut it off and make sure that you know that I'm angry, that you expressed your preference to have a reciprocal relationship when it comes to the communication dynamics. So pay attention to that. People who don't give you an opportunity to speak, who don't let you get a word in edgewise, pay attention to that. Chances are you're dealing with a narcissist, and if it's early in the relationship, you might have an opportunity to cut it off.
And so in this video, I just want to talk a little bit about, I have a video up already about how conversations with narcissists are just, competitions, for them and everything. So there's many, many other aspects of what it's like to try to talk to a narcissist that bears talking about. But in this video, I just want to focus on one tactic that narcissists use pretty much constantly. And what it is, it's a common narcissistic, sadistic narcissistic conversation control tactic. And there are many, okay, but I'm just going to focus on this one, having experienced it recently myself. Anyway, interrupting. I mean, my God, don't they interrupt? And so, I mean, they're just, narcissists are notorious conversation interrupters. And, they love to be the center of attention. So when they interrupt, boom, where's your attention go? Yeah, they have no interest in having a two-way conversation with you. So that's where people sometimes make their first kind of misjudgment, if you will, or hope again, or maybe think maybe this time the conversation will work, when in fact the narcissist never really has any intention of having a two-way conversation with you. I'm sure you might have experienced this in your life even. You try to say something and you get 3 words out and they'll go, I don't agree. Or, maybe use other language, right? And so this interruption is, this interruption tactic is something that, because they don't want a two-way conversation in the first place, even if they seem to really want to listen. Oh, I really want to hear what you have to say. Or they seem to really do that. I'm listening really well. What to watch out for there is that they can really only probably do that supposed I really want to listen thing for, if you're lucky, a sentence or two before they're going to come out with something like, they'll interrupt you, they'll say something contrary, disagree, be more superior, have to be righter than you or something. And then they'll say, and then you'll try to say something like, wait a minute, no, I just I was saying, whatever, you'll try to say something. And then they'll say right away, for example, I've had this done to me in a session, they'll say right away, well, you just cut me off. And then comes the tirade of their own inability to tolerate, feeling cut off, not feeling, but experiencing being cut off, or that lack of supply, or losing the center of attention. And let's face it, they don't want to listen to the other person in the conversation anyway. So then what they do is they often, in whatever language they use, however they do this, right? They will then say, but wait a minute, because, you cut me off. Meanwhile, they've interrupted you, and then they say you've cut them off. And then you say, no, and you're trying to maybe finish your sentence, maybe you're trying to finish your point. Then you just get dragged right over into defending. No, I didn't interrupt you, you interrupted me. And then they'll be like, no, I didn't interrupt you, you interrupted me. So it's important to really, I can't stress enough how narcissists genuinely have zero interest in hearing other people's viewpoints or reaching any compromise or agreement where, in a conversation, it could be win-win for both parties, like most people really want in a conversation, right? For it to be good for them and good for the other person, and understanding to happen, and listening, and then talking and sharing. Not the narcissist, no, not at all. And they have a my way or the highway frame of mind, so interrupting allows them to control the conversation and manage it in a direction that parallels their point of view and agenda. And again, is their showcase moment, or many showcase moments, as if they don't have many others in life, to try to let you know that you don't know as much as they know, or you couldn't possibly be right with whatever you just said. They make everything about right and wrong, when you're not even trying to be about right or wrong, you're just talking about something, right? That's the first mistake, unfortunately, with a narcissist, is talking to them in the first place.
Conversations with a narcissist can be more accurately described as verbal exchanges, where they talk and you listen. They talk at you, not with you. And you instantly feel an unease and an intangible tension. Conversation to them means them giving you a speech, a narrative, a report, or a lecture. We assume that when we talk to them that they are normal people, and we trust their words, but we don't realize that we are conversing with someone who has a personality disorder. They have a severe deficiency of empathy, so they are incapable of seeing things from another person's perspective. They have a different sense of reality than people who have empathy and who understand that the purpose of conversations is to feel connected or intimate and close to another human being. But these are exactly the qualities that narcissists find pathetic and beneath them. Conversations are like verbal competitions. They don't care about understanding, compromising, or clarifying. Their aim is to win and to confuse, manipulate, and control you. Tactics they'll use include constant interruption, talking over you, talking loudly, increasing their tempo, being defensive, demanding apologies, sulking, lying, denying, changing the subject repeatedly, pretending they didn't hear you, completely ignoring you, and if all that fails, they will punish you with silence. So conversations with a narcissist are aimed to disorient you, to make you question your reality, so you become mistrustful of yourself, of other people, and of life. So if you feel confused, frustrated, they've achieved their goal. They contradict themselves a lot. They distort facts. They repeat the same story endlessly. It's incomprehensible. The conversation is devoid of compassion, abundance, love, consideration. You never feel a genuine connection because they can't reciprocate. They can only mimic emotions. You may also observe a judgment toward a particular group of people, and they are especially aggressive, disgusted, or hateful toward them, like the uneducated, the unemployed. This group of people could be gay, people of a different nationality or religion, and they target this particular group of people with such intensity, it can literally make you feel nauseous. And conversations frequently feel more like an examination, where you're probed for information that, of course, will be used against you for future reference. And when it's your turn to talk, they act bored, dismissive, or irritated. And that's because they have a very short attention span if the focus isn't on them. And you'll notice a narcissist will rationalize and intellectualize emotions. They love to debate, disagree, argue, and they'll rant and pick fights. They will look for reasons to be insulted, and if they can't find them, they'll just make them up. And this gives them the opportunity to feel victimized, singled out, and how it's not their fault, and they're justified in their outrage. You also notice a sadistic smirk with a hint of contempt when they're deceiving a naive, gullible, and unsuspecting potential admirer. They can be very charming and entertaining, but for those who have carefully observed their performance, you'll see that it's just a pretense. so they can maintain their public persona. Be prepared to be mocked and for comments and inappropriate jokes to be made at your expense. Conversations with narcissists will generally consist of them behaving in a patronizing, condescending, and judgmental way. They exude an air of superiority and mystery, and these verbal exchanges will be peppered with aggression, hostility, and intimidation. Because narcissists lack empathy, they don't ask other people many questions about their feelings, about their opinions. They just don't care. Unless it's an opportunity to outsmart, to prove a point, and to get satisfaction that they are right or that they know better than you. They are oblivious to social cues or you being uncomfortable, that perhaps they've overstepped a boundary. They totally disregard you. They just need a podium and they look for an audience that can endlessly listen and be fascinated by their storytelling. So we tend to just put up and tolerate and zone out to survive these conversations. The narcissist is convinced that you find his conversation mesmerizing and fascinating, even if you've got your eyes on the nearest exit. You can't share anything of significance with them, and you'll get zero validation or understanding. Instead, you feel crazier than ever, and you question your sanity and replay these conversations in your mind endlessly for days, trying to make sense. If you suggest solutions or you offer advice, they'll see your input as a threat. They'll feel humiliated, so they'll discredit what you just offered, because of course they're the expert in every field. You can't teach them anything because they already know everything, and they take themselves very seriously. If you have opinions that contradict the narcissist, get ready for a full-fledged attack. You will regret if you ever express your opinion, because their version of truth is gospel. Your inability to understand their verbal diarrhea is evidence of their superior intellect and how knowledgeable they are. So if the end result is hesitancy, apprehension, doubt, paranoia, skepticism, notice how all of these are forms of fear. And when we are in fear, we can be more easily controlled. And the sooner you notice what the goal of these conversations is and what they cost you, the sooner you can disengage. Protect yourself and save your sanity. Another thing I'd like to recommend about conversations with narcissists is that you film or document or record the conversation as evidence. You may or may not want to play it back to them because that will cause them to erupt in a rage. But you can record the conversation and play it back so it can help you restore your sanity. If these type of conversations are familiar to you, then know that you're dealing with a mentally ill person. You cannot reason or use logic with them, and no amount of our pity, understanding, or compassion will change this person.
Is it about religion in particular that can bring out some of the narcissistic ingredients in a person? Now, let's keep in mind that one of the hugest characteristics of narcissism is the craving to be in control. Narcissists are people that have to be right, and they've got to make sure that things go according to their mindset, and they're not at all bashful about making other folks know that they're correct, which means you've got to comply. Well, when you think about it, as we approach religion, many people approach religion in a power kind of mindset. It's like they approach their understanding of God by saying, well, I have now found ultimate truth, and we have to make sure that everything lines up with that. And so if you disagree with them, you're not just agreeing with them. It's like, no, this is not me. This is God you're disagreeing with. And so they appoint themselves as being the spokesperson for God. And in doing so, that gives them the ultimate feeling of superiority. Now, they would never say that because that just seems sacrilegious to say something like that. But that's really what we've got going on. It's a person attempting to play God over you. And they've kind of gotten a little bit too confused about who has which role there. And there are primary ingredients that these folks can operate with, and if I can, I'd like to run through some of them with you, because if you see some of these ingredients, you'll realize that it feeds into a narcissistic bent. As an example, when a person has very strong religious preferences and beliefs, they use a great deal of what I would refer to as binary thinking. Black, white, on, off. You're either in the club or you're not in the club. You're either right or you're wrong. And so with that binary thinking, it allows them to put conversations into a superior, inferior kind of frame of reference, which is very classic for the narcissist. And guess which end of that equation you're going to be on. If you don't line up to their religious beliefs, then certainly there's just someone's got to be labeled as wrong here, and it can't be them, so it's got to be you. And they have a couple of favorite words that they like to refer to that's part of this binary thinking. One is the word authority, the other is the word truth. You know, they speak with the authority of their religious convictions, and authority, actually, if you have good authority, that means that you're well informed and you speak from a good position, an educated position. But this authority that we're talking about could actually be a little bit more nuanced, and we could call it authoritarian. It's like, I'm the one who has the answers, you don't, so you have to listen to me, and they can come across in a very orderly and ordering kind of a way towards other individuals. And then when I say truth, it's like I have the corner of the market on all truth, and you have to go according to truth. But again, their word truth can be a euphemism for do it my way, and please don't. Which leads to another thought that's part of that narcissistic religious mindset, and that is there's a lack of curiosity regarding other kinds of thinking about separate beliefs. You know, the bottom line is there's 7 billion of us on this planet, and as I engage with my small number of people on the planet and I find out that you don't have the same beliefs as I do, it's the height of arrogance for me to say, but you have to conform to mine. We have all sorts of cultural influences. We have family influences. I mean, people on the other side of the world, I promise they don't think the same as we do here in America. And you may be listening in another part of the world and you may be saying, yeah, that's right. We're brought up with different kinds of influences and emphases. And the curious person says, how can I learn from you? Whereas the strongly narcissistic kind of person says, well, that's wrong, and it's my job to explain to you why that's wrong. In a non-narcissistic religious mindset, embrace humility. You're not the center of the universe, and frankly, you don't have it all together either. You have some of your failings and some of your disappointments and some of the misjudgments that you've made. It may not be the same as someone else, but you've got yours. Keep that in your memory bank as you engage with these other individuals. And be honest about the fact that you need something bigger and larger and transcendent that you plug into just as other individuals do. And so you don't want to do it with an attitude of superiority. So as we look at religion and that subject and then tie it towards that narcissistic mindset, knowing that there's got to be a better way, I want you to just ask a couple of questions. When you approach your religious attitudes and your religious practices, do you do so with a regulatory mindset in a way that proves you to be superior over others? Or do you do so with a spirit and an attitude of love, where you begin with the thought that says, we're all in this together. I want you to know that I'm going to show goodness and kindness to you, just as I would hope you would do the same towards me in reverse. If that's the way you go, then you wind up with much better influence, and I think that's kind of what you're wanting to do as you engage with the world.
My name is Sam Vakni. I'm the author of Malignant Self-Love, Narcissism Revisited. To the narcissist, the internet is an alluring and irresistible combination of playground and hunting grounds. It is a gathering place of numerous potential sources of narcissistic supply of attention. It is a world where false identities are common and mind games the bon ton. It is also beyond the reach of the law, beyond the pale of social norms, and beyond the strictures of civilized conduct. In other words, as far as the narcissist is concerned, it's true paradise. The somatic narcissist finds cybersex and cyber relationships aplenty. The cerebral narcissist claims false accomplishments. He fakes skills, erudition, and talents. Both these types of narcissists, the somatic and the cerebral, even when they are minimally communicative, end up at the instantly gratifying epicenter of a cult of fans, followers, stalkers, erotomaniacs, denigrators, and plain nuts. The constant attention and attendant quasi-celebrity feed and sustain the grandiose fantasies and the inflated self-image of the narcissist. So in a way, the internet is an extension of the real-life narcissistic pathological space, the narcissist milieu and environment, offline. But the internet is without the risks, the injuries, the disappointments, and the hurt that is common in reality. In the virtual universe of the web, the narcissist vanishes and reappears with ease. He often adopts a myriad aliases and nicknames and handles. The narcissist fends off criticism, abuse, disagreement, and disapproval effectively and in real time by merely not being there anymore. At the same time, he preserves the precarious balance of his infantile personality by reappearing or by pretending to be someone else. Narcissists are therefore prone to internet addiction. It fulfills many of their emotional needs. The internet, of course, has positive characteristics, but unfortunately they are largely lost on the narcissist. He is not keen on expanding his horizons, on fostering true relationships with others, on getting in real contact with people. The narcissist is forever the provincial in the internet because he filters everything through the narrow lens of his addiction to narcissistic supply. He measures others on the internet. He idealizes them or devalues them according to one criterion only: how useful they are at being sources of narcissistic supply. Can they be such sources or not? The internet is an egalitarian medium. People on the internet are judged by the consistency, the quality of their contributions, not by the content or bombast of their claims. But the narcissist is driven to distracting discomfiture by a lack of clear and commonly accepted hierarchy, with himself, of course, at the pinnacle. So the internet, this anarchic and democratic medium, also discomforts the narcissist, makes him feel ill at ease. So what the narcissist tries to do, he fervently and aggressively tries to impose the natural order with the narcissist at the top, either by monopolizing the discussion, monopolizing the interaction, or if this strategy fails, by becoming a major disruptive influence.